Yes, hello, welcome back to the Rugby League Forecast podcast for round 3 of the National Rugby League season for season 2026. What a great opening couple of rounds we've had to start the season. Let's get straight into the lineup, starting with Thursday's game at 8 p.m. at GIO Stadium between the Canberra Raiders and the Canterbury Bulldogs. What a game that was last year. Of course, Canterbury winning that game, but Canberra were up 20 points to nil at half time. And I think it was 36 unanswered points. Stephen Crichton and Viliami kick-out absolutely destroyed the Canberra Raiders in that second half. All right, let's get started. KO Weeks at fullback for the Raiders. The two wingers, great time to get the hiccups. Two wingers, Savelio Tamale and Xavier Savage. In the centres, Simi Sasangi and Sebastian Chris. In the halves, Ethan Strange, Ethan Sanders. Up front, Josh Papali'i. A key return into the side. He was very much missed in round 2 against the Warriors over in Auckland. Tom Starling at number 9, Joseph Tarpany number 10, Hudson Young and Noah Martin on the edges there, and Corey Horsburgh locking the scrum. On the bench, Jaden Brayley. Still no Owen Paddy on the in the 19 at the moment. Jaden Brayley at 14, 15 Zach Hosking, 16 Ata Mariota, and 17 Morgan Smithies. The reserves, Dane Laurie and Matthew Tomoko. Will be interesting to see if Matthew Tomoko gets a run either this week or within the next couple of weeks. Apparently, Ricky Stewart wanted him to work on his defence in the opening rounds of New South Wales Cup. Owen Paddy in the number 20 as a reserve, alongside Joseph Roddy and Jed Stewart in the 22. Let's look at Canterbury here at fullback, Connor Tracy. 2, Jacob Carraz. On the other sting is Marcelo Montoya. Now, in the centres, we all know the dramas that has happened with Bronson Sherry this week. He will be playing New South Wales Cup for the Canterbury Bulldogs. And Ari Tuala will start in the number 3 jersey. And, of course, number 4, captain and, in my opinion, future immortal, Stephen Crichton. If he can win a premiership with Canterbury as a captain, I think you've got to put him up there with the best of the best. He is unbelievable. I know it's a big call, but I love a bit of a bold prediction on this podcast. 6, Matt Burton. 7, Lachlan Galvin. 8, Max King. 9, Bailey Haywood. Sam Hughes has done a good job to replace the injured Leo Thompson to start the season as a starting front rower in that 10 jersey. 11, Viliami Kickout. 12, Jacob Preston. And 13, Jamin Salmon. On the bench, Kurt Mance, Tilly Tupanua, Harry Hayes, and Josh Curran in the 17. And 19, we've got Sean O'Sullivan, 20, Jake Turpin, and that's it. I don't know what happened to number 18 there, but anyway, that's what we've got down here. Now, Friday at 6 o'clock, this is the second game of the round. We've got the Roosters and the Penrith Panthers. At fullback for the Roosters, James Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, and Mark Nwanganitawase on the wings. Of course, no Billy Smith from that unfortunate e-bike accident, expected to be out for another couple of weeks. So for Talangi Tonga, starts in that number 3 jersey. Number 4, Robert Toyer. What a great defensive centre he is. And the halves, Cherry Evans. What a game he had last week against South Sydney. 7, Sam Walker. 8, Nafahu White. 9, Reece Robson. 10, Lindsay Collins. The second rowers are Angus Crichton and Siwa Wong, starting again in that number 12 jersey for the Sydney Roosters this week. Egan Butcher locking the scrum for this week. Connor Watson on the bench with Blake Steep, Nat Butcher, and Celesi Fiketti, the young gun back rower for the Sydney Roosters in that 17 jersey. Their reserves, of course, Cody Ramsey, 18, 19, 19, Benaya Iolu, who's done a great job for them as the starting dummy half for the opening couple of weeks. Now, the big talking point in this game is, of course, Reece Robson playing his debut match in Sydney Roosters colours. Of course, he's played for the Dragons, where he made his debut. Moved over to the Cowboys, I'm going to say around the 2021 season. And obviously made a prelim in 2022 and has done a great job at the Cowboys, where he has made a New South Wales Origin jersey debut. And so great to see him start for the Sydney Roosters. For the Penrith Panthers at fullback, Dylan Edwards. The two wingers, Thomas Jenkins and Brian To'o. In the centres, Paul Alamotti and Casey McLean. And the halves, Blaze Talangi, Nathan Cleary. Up front, Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny and Lindsay Smith. The second rowers, Isaiah Papali'i. Liam Martin is making his return into Penrith colours, back in that Penrith jersey on the number 12 with 12 on his back, I should say. Played his first game of the season coming back from an injury, and Isaiah Yo, the co-captain, with the number 13 on his back. On the bench, Freddie Lussick, number 14, Billy Phillips, 15, Scott Sorensen at 16, Luke Garner at 17, Isaac Targo at 18, and Kalani Going at 19. Will be interesting to see if Isaac Targo actually starts the game at centre. Will be interesting to see where he plays. He can also play a lot of back row as well, where he grew up playing in the development squads and junior system at Penrith. He played a lot of back row. So we'll be interesting to see what they end up doing there. The reserves, Tom Ale at 20, 21, Jack Cole, and 22, Jesse McLean. The second game, Friday night football between the Melbourne Storm and the Brisbane Broncos. This is Friday night at 8 p.m, live and exclusive on Fox League, KO Sports, and of course Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. Amy Park, Melbourne Storm. Here we go. Melbourne, 2 from 2 to start the year. Let's go. Fullback Sua Falongo, Will Warbrick, and Nick Meaney are the wingers, with Jack Howarth and Moses Leo in the centres. Cameron Munster at 6 and Jerome Hughes at 7. Stefano Utukaramanu at 8. 9, Harry Grant, and 10, Josh King. 11, Joe Chan. Atavalu Lasati at 12, and 13 is Tui Kamakamika. On the bench, Tyron Wishart, Trent Loiero, Davey Moali, and Cooper Clark in the 17 jersey. 18, Alec McDonald. 19, Silangi Tuamala to Brown. The reserves, Jack Hetherington, Preston Conn, and 22, Trent Talau. Really important to note, the only proper change in this lineup is to see Trent Loiero come back into the side. Interesting to see he will make his way off the bench, and they're going to start with Tui Kamakamika, who ran for many, many metres. I think it was around 168 metres against the Dragons last week. He had a phenomenal game against the Dragons in that 13 jersey. So I can understand that Trent Loiero can come on off the bench and play that lock forward row. He can also play edge forward as well in that number 11 or 12 jersey, Trent Loiero. So going to be interesting to see where Craig Bellamy will play him in this game against the Brisbane Broncos, who we will now go through their lineup. At fullback, Reece Walsh. The two wingers, Josiah Karapani and Grant Anderson, former Melbourne Storm player. And what a Michael Maguire player he is. Tough, not the most talented, but consistent and reliable, and that's exactly what Michael Maguire needs in this side after the shocking start that the Broncos have had to start their season 2026 campaign. In the centres, Katoni Staggs and Dean Mariner moving from the wing into the centres. Big name, obviously, the former current Australian centre, Jahamet Gabbett Shibasaki, I should say. He's been dropped. And I think his defence on that left edge, alongside Ezra Mam, who's lucky to retain his spot after his defensive efforts last week against the Parramatta Eels. Gabbett Shibasaki has been dropped to Queensland Cup. So that's a huge blow in terms of attack. But defensively, they're probably not going to miss out much. I don't know about Dean Mariner's defence, I've got to say, when I have seen him play at the Brisbane Broncos in centre. He's not a strong defensive centre, but will be interesting to see if he's worked on that game in the preseason. I've got no doubt that he would have trained at centre at times through the preseason when they had to train for situations like this if players were to be dropped or injured. Let's go into the halves. Ezra Mam at 6 and Adam Reynolds set to retain his spot in the number 7. Now, I've seen reports today. Some reports have said he's going to be playing, and some others have said he won't be playing. So if he won't be playing, expect Ben Hunt to start in that number 7 jersey, but Ben Hunt will wear the 14 playing halfback. So they have got a great replacement there. Corey Jensen at prop, Corey Pakes at 9, Payne Haas at 10. I'd say by tomorrow morning we'd have a more understanding of exactly what is going to happen there with Adam Reynolds. Xavier Willison and Jordan Ricky are the edges, and Patrick Carrigan is locking the scrum. Interesting to see Xavier Willison starting in that 11 jersey. And he's a good edge forward too, Xavier Willison. Ben Hunt, Ben Tolte, Olblix Tawa, who they bought from the Dolphins last year, and Gabbett Shibasaki is in the 17. But from what I've known, he's in the 17 jersey here. But what I'm being told is he won't be playing. Well, I'm being what I've been seeing reports all through the media in rugby league is saying that he will be dropped. So he's got the 17 here, but expect either Blake Moser, Jesse Arthurs, or Thomas Duffy to come on and from the reserve list into the starting into the 19. So I'm being told that Shibasaki will not be playing in this game. He's been dropped. So going to be really interesting to see whether or not he gets a go. From everything I'm seeing, apparently he's going to be dropped completely. So that's interesting. All right, let's have a look now at the Knights and the Warriors. So I expect a few changes to the Broncos lineup before kickoff. It will be interesting to see. I'd say about 2 hours before kickoff, we'll get a good understanding of exactly who is playing in what position. Going to be interesting there. But Grant Anderson making his club debut, I think he will be a terrific player for the Brisbane Broncos under Michael Maguire. Super Saturday 3 p.m. at McDonald Jones Stadium. The Newcastle Knights line up such as this: at fullback, Fletcher Hunt. Dominic Young and Greg Marzu are the wingers, with Dane Gagai and Bradman Best in the centres. The halves, Fletcher Sharp will line up back in his number 6 position, only missing one game against the Manly Sea Eagles, and what a win it was for Newcastle over Manly, unfortunately. Sandon Smith in that number 7 jersey. Of course, guys, Kalen Ponga will be out for 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring injury, and Dylan Brown expected to be out for roughly about a month with an MCL injury. So 2 big losses. Didn't affect them last week in the second half. They just continued to play a real Newcastle Knights, old style Newcastle Knights brand of football where they're just working class and going into the grind, and they dominated Manly. As much as I hate to say it, congratulations to them. I don't think enough attention has been put on the Newcastle Knights for that victory and how good of a job that they did. I think too much attention has been, well, I can understand it, how terrible Manly were, but I want to see more positive headlines about Newcastle and how well they played against Manly. They deserve the credit, and they deserve it massively. Trey Mooney in the number 10 jersey. The second row is Dylan Lucas, Jermaine McEwen, and Tyson Frizzell was really impressive against Manly last week. Thomas Kant on the bench alongside Matthew Croker, Pasami Solo, and Francis Manu Alu. Tyson Gamble at 18 and Harrison Graham in the number 19 jersey. So there was talk whether or not Harrison Graham would start for Newcastle at number 9 and Phoenix Crossland to move into the halves if they were to put Fletcher Hunt at fullback. Fletcher Sharp at fullback, but Fletcher Hunt has done such a great job at fullback and did last week against Manly when he came on for the injured Kalen Ponga. Cody Hopwood at 21 and James Schiller at 22. I'd love to see Cody Hopwood start playing some consistent first grade too. There's massive raps on this young kid around the grounds at the Newcastle system. I would love to see him start playing consistent football for the Newcastle Knights. The Warriors at fullback, Tane Tuapiki, Dallin Watenius-Lesniak on the wing, alongside Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on the other wing. I thought Roger was a bit poor last week. A couple of errors that he wouldn't normally make. So in a winning team, I thought it'd be good if he could stand up in this game. Ali Leiatua in the centres alongside Adam Pompey. In the halves, making his debut NRL match, Luke Hanson. Congratulations to the young fella. He will be wearing the number 6 on his back, and Tanner Boyd in the number 7. 8, James Fisher-Harris. 9, Wade Egan. 10, Jackson Ford. 11, Leka Halasima. He will be starting again. Of course, Kurt Capewell was injured in the warm-up last week before the game against Canberra, and he will be missing up to a few weeks of first-grade footy for the Warriors. Jacob Laban on the other edge in the number 12 jersey. And lock in the scrum, Aaron Clark. Lock of the year last year in the NRL. What a buy he has been from the Gold Coast Titans. On the bench, in my opinion, one of the most underrated up-and-coming dummy halves coming through the NRL ranks is Sam Healy. What a player he is. 15, Dimitri Valmaga. Tanner Stowers-Smith at 16. Marata Niakure at 17. What a fucking great bench that is. Morgan Gannon at 18 and 20. Alofa Khan Pereira. That is a great lineup. Let's have a look at the reserves. Eddie Irema Tuiva at 21, Jet Cleary at 22 and 23, Mitch Barnett. Not expected to play in this game. He was expected to return last week, but the fact that, they could shift him from 23 onto the bench, I guess, or possibly start. But I will be interested to see what they do there. Just looking at the lineup again, for me, we talk about James Fisher-Harris as being one of the elite forwards of the competition, but I don't think enough attention for me personally has been on Jackson Ford for the Warriors. They don't win these last two games without Jackson Ford and his post-contact meters. His lack of effort, his lack of errors, I was going to say. His lack of errors. He's just holding the football. Their completion rate has been really impressive, and his go forward has been absolutely fantastic. At the beginning of this year, I wasn't sure if Jackson Ford would play any consistent football for the Warriors unless they were to have injuries. But I think for me, he has to be in the starting. I keep saying on the 17, but now there's 19 men. So going to be interesting to see what they do there. Let's go to the next game. Sharks and Dolphins. This is Saturday, 5:30 at Shark Park. I'm going to whiz through these games. Will Kennedy at fullback on the wings, Sione Katoa and Sam Stone Street in the number 5. Just back on the Warriors quickly. Chanel Harris-Tavita, he got concussed last week, and it was a bad concussion, actually. He got removed off the field, and he has to miss this week. So a good opportunity for young Luke Hanson as well to come into the game. And Shans Nickel-Klokstad, I don't think is playing in that game. Just really quickly, I did have a look earlier, and I couldn't see his name in there. I don't know what's happened with him. I don't know if he had an injury. I haven't heard anything about it at the moment. But for me, he's a significant loss. I think he was better at 5'8" than he was at fullback. A good opportunity for young Luke Hanson. All right, Jesse Ramian and KL Iro in the centres, Braden Trindle and Nico Hines in the halves. Up front, Adam Fanua-Blake, Blake Brayley and Thomas Hazelton. On the edges, Britton Nakora, Billy Burns, and number 13, Jesse Colhoun. Bench, Sifa Talakai, Toby Rudolph at 15, 16, Oregon Kafusi, 17, Braden Hamlin-Ueli, 18, Hohepa Puru, 19, Chris Vailea, and the reserves, Jaden Beryl at 20, 21, Mweni Hiroti, and Teague Wilton in the 22 jersey. For the Dolphins at fullback, Hamaso Tabuai Fido. On the wings, Jermaine Asako and Selwyn Cobbo. In the centres, Jake Avarillo and Herbie Farnworth. In the halves, Cody Nikarima and Isaiah Katoa. Up front, top Gilbert, Thomas Flegler, and the number 9, Max Plath. Great to see him. For me, probably one of my top 3 favourite players of the competition. Fuck, I'd love Manly to just sign a Max Plath. He's so good. Great to see him start in the number 9 jersey, where I think he did a great job for the Dolphins over the last couple of years when there has been injuries to Jeremy Marshall-King. Lock in the scrum is Morgan Knowles, 14, Brad Schneider, Oren Keeley, Felice Kafusi and Ray Stone. The reserves, Trey Fuller and Sebastian Sewer. They were the 18-19. The reserves, Lewis Simons, Tavita Navahu, who was really good in the centres and on the wing in the preseason challenge for the Dolphins, and Brian Panau is the number 22. For the Rabbitohs and the Tigers, Saturday, 7:35 p.m. at Polytech Stadium, which is the stadium at Gosford. One of my favourite stadiums on the Central Coast. I used to love it back in the mid-2000s or early 2010s when it was called Blue Tongue Stadium. That was fantastic. At the Rabbitohs, fullback, Jai Gray. The centres, Alex Johnston and Campbell Graham. The centres, Latrell Mitchell and Jack Whiten. In the halves, Cody Walker and Jamie Humphreys. Up front, Tavita Totola, Bronson Garlick in that number 9 jersey, again replacing the injured Brandon Smith. Up front, Keon Kalamatangi in the second row. David Fafita, Tallis Duncan, and 13, captain and legend of the club, Cameron Murray. On the bench, Peter Mamazoulis, who has done a great job off the bench over the last couple of weeks, I must say. Ewan Aitken at the 15 jersey, 16, Sean Kepi, 17, Jaden Sullivan, Lachlan Hubner at 18, Moala Graham Tafua at 19, the reserves, Thomas Fletcher, the young back rower there, Latrell Siegwalt, and Liam LeBlanc. Now, really important to notice in this game that Jamie Humphreys is back, playing his first game since he got suspended late last year. He was suspended for the opening couple of matches of the season. He is back and he is wearing the number 7 jersey. So great to see him play his first game for the Rabbitohs in season 2026. And Tallis Duncan will be starting again this week on the edge. Last week he was actually coming off the bench against the Sydney Roosters on that Friday night game. But Ewan Aitken started. I'm pretty sure he did last week. I'm very certain he did last week. And Tallis Duncan came off the bench. Good to see that they've swapped, because I think Tallis Duncan is a starting edge in any other side. He is unbelievable, an unbelievable talent, and a great second rower, Tallis Duncan. For the Tigers at fullback, Jareen Buller, The wings, Sunia Taruva and Luke Lauletli, who I think the Gold Coast Titans have signed, I've seen recently. I'm pretty sure he's got up to the Titans for season 2027 and beyond. In the centres, Jarrell Skelton and Heimasi Makasini. Interesting to see Skelton move to the centres with Taylor May injured and possibly looking likely he could be out for the season, which is a massive blow. There are links from Bronson Xerri to join the Tigers. Xerri obviously unhappy at the Canterbury Bulldogs from what it seems at the moment. So he's got the same manager as Benji Marshall. So it'll be interesting to see if Bronson Xerri can get a start at the Tigers. I personally think I'd love to see him play for the Tigers. He's an elite centre, Bronson Xerri. So it'll be interesting to see. He's been linked to Manly as well, but as good as Bronson Xerri is, I'd love Manly to start spending some fucking money on big front rowers that we need. We need forwards at Manly. At 6, Jerome Luai. 7, Adam Dewey in the halves up front. Terrell May, Apisai Coruscant, and Whanua Paule. In the centres, Sam Fainu, Kai Pearce Paul playing his first game last week for the Tigers. What a game he had. Couple of tries. Alex Twell, fantastic Alex Twell. One of the best games I'd seen him play last week. He was such a leader in that side. So many metres, so many minutes. Such a great defender. Man, he's the heart and soul of the Tigers. He's like the Jake Trbojevic of the West Tigers. He's just such a good... He's not the best player in the team, but he's just so reliable and consistent and just a player that every club needs in their side if a team is going to make the finals, which I genuinely believe, looking at this lineup, the Tigers can make the finals. They really can. I don't think they will this year, but I can see them from next year and beyond becoming a consistent finals team. On the bench, Jock Madden at 14, Sione Fainu at 15, Royce Hunt at 16, Alex Seyfarth at 17, the young, I shouldn't say young, I think he's around 28 years of age, and of course made his debut last year in the early rounds for the Gold Coast Titans is Tristan Hope. 19, Patrick Herbert, who they picked up from the Gold Coast Titans, I'm pretty sure. The reserves, Bunty Afala from the Warriors, Faleni Tavana at 21, and Tony Suka, the 22. Sunday afternoon football on 9 and Fox League, Sunday 4:05 p.m. at Combank Stadium in Sydney. It's the Parramatta Eels and the St. George Illawarra Dragons. At fullback, Isaiah Iongi. The two wingers, Bailey Simonson and Josh Adokar. Jordan Samrani in the centres alongside Sean Russell. Will Penasini still injured, still not available for this game. 6, Jonah Pezzett. 7, Mitchell Moses. 8, Jermaine Hopgood. 9, Riley Smith. 10, Junior Paulo. The edges, Kelma Talangi. What a game he had last week in attack. Defensively, made some poor options, but in attack, he was unbelievable. Katoni Katoga in the 12 jersey. Hiccups again. And 13, Jack Williams on the bench. Dylan Walker, fantastic player. One of my favourite 14s the NRL has seen since 1998. What a player he is. Sam Tuavati, Matt Dury, Talon De Silva in 17. 18, Jack DeBellin, and 19, Joash Papali. 20, Charlie Geimer. 21, Brian Kelly, and 22, Luca Moretti for the Dragons. 0 from 2. Wouldn't know how that feels like. Fullback, Clint Gutherson. The two wingers, Christian Tuapolotu and Setu Tu. In the centres, Moses Sully and Valentine Holmes. In the halves, Kyle Flanagan and Daniel Atkinson at halfback. Emre Gula, Damien Cook and Toby Couchman at 10. 11, Luciano Leilua. 12, Jaden Sewer. And 13, Hamish Stewart. On the bench, Jacob Little, Josh Kerr, Blake Laurie and Ryan Couchman, who has been very impressive in the opening couple of rounds for the Dragons. Ryan Couchman. Hame Sele at 18. 19, Matthew Fegai, I think you pronounce it. Licken King Tongia, the reserves at 20. Loco Junior Pacifica Tonga, 21. Get him in, Flanagan. He's a gun. And 22, Tyrell Sloan. The final game of the round, Sunday, 6:15 p.m. at QCB Stadium, which is the Townsville Stadium for the Cowboys. Oh, the Cowboys. Here we go. They have to win this game, don't they? I'm not confident they will. At fullback, Scott Drinkwater. The two wingers, Braden Burns and Murray Talangi. The centres, Jackson Purdue and Thomas Chester. Jake Clifford, Tom Dearden in the halves with Cohen Hess, Reid Marnie and Jason Tamalolo in the 8, 9 and 10. 11, Helam Lukey. 12, Sam McIntyre. And 13, Ruben Cotter as the co-captain alongside Tom Dearden. On the bench, Sonny Luke at 14, Kai O'Donnell at 15, 16, Griffin Neame, 17, Harrison Edwards, and 18, Zach Labert, Liam Sutton at 19. The reserves, Caden Lars, 21, Matthew Lodge, and 22, Ethan King. My prediction in this game, I might be horribly wrong, but we do understand that Zach Labert in the final round, well, the Cowboys' final game, I think it was against Penrith, in the preseason challenge before they went over to Vegas. Zach Labert got sin-binned. He was suspended for up to 2 matches. He's now wearing the 18 on his back in this game. Do not be surprised if we see Jackson Purdue either start in the halves, or I just don't think he'll start in the centres. I think Thomas Chester has been unbelievable for the Cowboys in the centres to start the season. Zach Labert to go in on the other centre. I think Jackson Purdue needs to either go fullback or in the halves. Personally, I'll put him at fullback because I rate Jake Clifford's kicking game. He's also an excellent goal kicker too, Jake Clifford. Hasn't been outstanding the last couple of weeks in attack, Jake Clifford, but in saying that, I think Todd Payton needs to stick with him for, in my opinion, at least another couple of months. You've got to let those combinations bond and gel, give them time and the time that needs to be allowed for a halves combination to gel early on in the year. Personally, I think when Scott Drinkwater did some rib cartilage damage in the Vegas game, he came off. Jackson Purdue was shifted to fullback from that left centre position and ended up all of a sudden they were scoring fucking points, 12 points in 10 minutes. And so I think that's something that's Todd Payton would have to strongly consider. I just think Zach Labert is a young gun centre from what we've seen him play in first grade. Very inexperienced in first grade. Had an ACL injury back in 2024, which was tragic for the Cowboys and him personally. I genuinely believe that the Cowboys can win this game and win it well. But I'm just, I don't know. Let's look at the Titans. Keanu Kinney at fullback. It's a real toss of the coin. Cialetti Faimani on the wing alongside Philip Sammy on the other wing. In the centres, Jojo Fafita and Max Feengai. The halves, AJ Brimson and Lachlan Ilias in the 7. Mo Fotuaika, Sam Verrills and Tino. At number 10, this second rows, Rami Howe, 12, Bo Firma, who was excellent last week in a losing side, and Chris Randall at 13. Curtis Morin at 14, 15, Tukimihia, Simpkins, Clace Haas, and Cooper Byatt, 17. Oliver Pascoe at 18. Jaden Campbell, of course, is the 19. I'm about to talk about that. The reserves are Jalen DeGroot at 20 and 21. Jet Liu, 22. Josh Patson. For me personally, if I'm a Titans fan, I would want to be Cooper Bye. I want to see Cooper Bye starting in that 13 jersey and playing fucking 70 to 80 minutes. I just think he's the future 13 of this club. Get him in. Personally, I think Chris Randall would be better coming on from the bench. I think you'd probably move Chris Randall to 14 or 15. Curtis Morin stays on the bench. He can cover hooker, prop, lock. Chris Randall can cover any position. He could even play in the halves, prop, hooker, second row, lock. All the positions he's played in his career. So much versatility within this side. Personally, I'd love to see Josh Patson get a go. There's big raps on this kid, the young back rower. So it'd be interesting to see if I think Aramau Howell will have to have a big game, and otherwise Josh Patson, I'd love to see him start for the Titans at some point or come off the bench at some point in season 2026. Personally, Jaden Campbell, number 19, expect to see him start. And Lachlan Ilias to come out. The fact that he's not on the reserves and got the 19, he's in the 19, would suggest that he will probably be playing in this game. And I'd be very surprised if he didn't. I mean, unless they make a change beforehand, whether or not a reserve, Jalen DeGroot, Josh Patson, or Jet Liu will come on and Jaden Campbell move back to the reserves before kickoff, who knows? But the fact he's been named in the 19 would suggest that if he doesn't play this week, he will most likely play within the next couple of weeks and return from the injury. I think it was a broken hand, was it? I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments. And that is team list. Well, that's the team list that came out yesterday, team list Tuesday. But of course, I do the round reviews on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we go through the upcoming team lists of the team lists of the upcoming round, which is round 3 this week. And on Thursday, I do the round preview. That is it. That's all we have, folks. Please subscribe to me on the YouTube channel. Rugby League Forecast. That is the Rugby League Forecast podcast. And please follow me on Spotify if you haven't already. So, guys, if you are listening to the podcast or if you're enjoying what you're watching, seeing, or listening, please follow me or subscribe. It's honestly, it'd be a massive help. And then we can build this podcast into something that I genuinely believe will be good for rugby league in general down the track. All right, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Rugby League NRL Round 3 preview. Thank you.